Hey everybody. Um, I know I haven't made a video in a while, but I wanted to make one kind of just showcasing at least some of the stuff I've been doing for the past, I don't know, month. I've been playing a lot of Diablo 4, and as you can see, I've got a level 90 rogue, I've got a level 81 sork. The rest of this stuff is just mules because there are absolutely no stash tabs in the fucking game, but that's, something else, I guess. Anyways, I wanted to explain kind of, well, I guess we'll go over the character that we played this season, and then we'll go over how I feel about this season and how I feel about the game. So, this season, I knew I wanted to play a Necromancer because I already played Sorceress and I already played Rogue. And I did not want to redo a character. I wanted to play something new, so that left Druid, Necro, or Barb. And I was really leaning towards Barb because they have 4 different weapons that you can upgrade and stuff, which I like the upgrading. I like having to look for weapons to upgrade and I like that process of socketing, imprinting, upgrading at the blacksmith on all 4 of those weapons would be really, really cool. And plus you get, 4 extra socket slots for your royal emeralds. But I ended up going with Necro because I thought, I wanted to play Bone Spear basically. I wanted to do something that could do Uber Lilith. And overall, I am pretty impressed with Bone Spear. I almost one-shot everything. There's very few things I don't one-shot in a dungeon. There are some elites that take 2 bone spears, but very rarely will it take less than 2, more than 2 bone spears to kill an elite. And everything else is just kind of centered around, damage and maximum essence. I have, let me see, what do I have? I have 71 maximum essence, which is great. And my bone spear costs 19, so I can cast 10 bone spears without really needing any generation. My bone spear lucky hit chance is 58, and I have a chance to generate 30 essence, 10% chance to generate 30 essence when I hit an enemy, so that's, pretty good. And that's kind of just how the build works. I generate essence by shooting bone splinters and bone spear at a bunch of enemies. One thing that makes this class so superior to other classes is we get a certain heart. We get the walking near a corpse automatically activates a corpse skill, an equipped corpse skill. So because I have corpse explosion and corpse tendrils on my hotbar, it will cycle through these basically whenever. So this will proc every second. So every second I will either explode a corpse, which does kind of some damage, and then I will also use corpse tendrils, which when corpse tendrils happens, it's a lot like the Raiment of the Infinite on Sorceress, where you will teleport and it will suck every enemy on the screen into a certain spot. So it stacks 20 enemies just right on top of each other, and all I have to do at that point is shoot a bone spear, and it'll hit all 20 enemies. It'll proc a lot of lucky hit chances on those 20 enemies. So I'm pretty much always crowd controlling, and I'm always stunning, and I'm always generating essence because I also gain 6 essence whenever I consume a corpse, and this counts as consuming a corpse. So every second I get 6 essence, and that's not including when I'm shooting my bone spears at enemies and it's proccing this. And then I also get 10 essence whenever I walk over a blood orb, which I don't think I ever, I don't think. So that's a blood orb. So whenever I walk over this, I get 10 essence, pretty easy. And my crit chance is out of this world. I'm almost critting pretty much every time I hit an enemy. So there's a lot of stuff we can do with that too, but basically it just means we want a shit ton of crit damage. And if we look at my stats, we have about 276 crit damage plus the 150 with bone skills, so that's 370. That's like almost 425 crit damage, which is a huge amount of crit damage. We do need some more vulnerable damage, but you know, it's because this ring is kind of lackluster in that department. Either way, the build pretty much one-shots everything. Bosses are no problem. It's been a blast to play. It's really fun progressing this character just because of how strong it is. And it honestly should be even stronger just because Imperfectly Balanced is gone. And then we also have the 18% of incoming damage is suppressed. Probably going to switch this out for Barber, but we'll see. Right now I like the suppression because I'm kind of trying to push higher tier dungeons and we need the survivability. Either way, it's good, it's fun, it works, yada yada yada. Anyways, the game though, the game itself, there's a huge problem with it. And the problem is there's about only 5 things for me to do at any given time at this level in the game whenever I log in. The first thing I can do is obviously Nightmare Dungeons, where you're going to be spending 90% of your time as a higher level character in this game. You know, Nightmare Dungeons are cool, they're fun, they're just like maps in PoE. But you have no control over them. You have no control over what maps you want to run. You just kind of have to get lucky and drop them. I've been really lucky, and I've dropped 3 Olders, which is kind of like one of my favorite maps. But the tier and like the mods on them, completely random. Now I could get 3 Olders today and never see one for like another 2 weeks. So Nightmare Dungeons, fun. It's how you level up your glyphs for your Paragon board, but they do get old. The second thing you can do is Hell Tides, which got obscenely nerfed in this last patch. They basically told you that you had to get like, I think it's 65 to 70% more splinters to open up the only chest that kind of matters, which is the Chest of Mysteries. But Helltides are great just because they're not Nightmare Dungeons, and they can really break up the monotony of grinding your levels if you just want to chill and get some obols for gambling. Also, it gives you a shit ton of elixirs. It gives you a shit ton of Forgotten Souls, and also it gives you Fiend Roses. This league, or this season, they did add the feature where if you salvage a weapon of any type, it has to be legendary. So if you salvage a legendary weapon, it will give you a Forgotten Soul. So you can actually get Forgotten Souls without doing Helltide, but you still need to do Helltide to get Fiend Roses. So kind of a weird change, but it's very welcome. I don't mind it. You know, more Forgotten Souls anywhere is good by me. That's fine by me. The third thing you can do is world events. Yay! That is what we call a world boss. Or legions. And yeah, that's you know, the third thing you can do. And you can usually find people to play with there. Like if you'll do a legion, you'll join a party and be like, hey, you want to run a Nightmare Dungeon after this? They'll usually say yes. So it's a great place to find people to play with, but overall, you know, there's only 2 events and legions happen every half an hour, so they do get old pretty quick. World bosses are always fun though. But yeah, so we've got world events, we've got Nightmare Dungeons, we've got Helltides. We have also got the Tree of Whispers, number 4. So you can go to these dungeons and you'll get 5 whispers, or 5 grim favors, I guess. And you'll need 10 to get a reward. So 2 dungeons equals 1 reward. Usually people don't do this because the experience you get is very negligible. Not really even worth it to do, especially at the higher levels, like level 80 plus. You're only really ever going to get these by doing world bosses and like random stuff around the map. Maybe you'll do a nightmare dungeon that just so happens to be a whisper, and you'll get some grim favors that way. I usually try and target the nightmare dungeons that have these whispers just so I can get, maximum experience per hour, but that's kind of just the way I do it. I'm sure it's the way a lot of people do it too. But you're never really going to do this just to do this like as the one thing you're doing. You're always going to be doing like nightmare dungeons and this, just because it's not very rewarding in it of itself. But you could. So that's the 4th thing. The 5th thing, and something that not even a lot of people even ever do, is PvP. This is probably the last thing you can do as a high-level character that will mean any sort of anything to you. So the other thing about PvP that I find as a huge problem is, say I'm level 77 right now, right? If there is a level 87 there in PvP, it probably won't even matter what class he is. He will be able to kill me very quickly, just based on that 10 level disparity. If he's level 90 plus, forget about it. Just forget about it. And a lot of people in PvP are level 100 just because they don't have anything else to do. So imagine being level 77 running into a level 100 druid that is going to come up and one-shot me. And that's why PvP is not fun until you're really, really high level, just because you will run into those people that are super high level and they will destroy you. So realistically, PvP is kind of like a half of a thing to do. Like, yes, you can go there. Yes, you can get the whatever these are called, the red dust, or you know what I'm talking about. You can get that stuff, and you can kind of weave your way through. Maybe you'll get an extraction off, but overall you'll probably end up getting killed by a really high level character and raging and then just quitting for the day. But yeah, so this is those are about the 5 things you can do in the game. Nightmare dungeons, hell tides, world events, just world bosses and legions, trio whispers stuff, and PvP. And that's it. If you guys can think of something else, go for it. But those are realistically the only things you can do in the very, very late game. You could technically count Renowned Grind as something you could do. I would count this as like maybe half of a thing to do, because you're going to end up having to do this regardless of whatever you're doing. Realistically speaking, this is more of a necessity rather than like an activity, in my opinion. Anyways, let's go over how I feel about the game as a whole. The game as a whole, I don't think it's worth $70. I don't think if you're watching this video somehow and have never played the game before and you're thinking about buying it, I don't think you should. I think there's a bevy, a cornucopia, a veritable cornucopia of other beautifully made games out there that are free even, that have 10 times the amount of depth and gratitude you will get out of playing it than this game. This game is very surface level. It's very unfinished, in my opinion, in a hell of a lot of aspects. That being said, there are facets of this game that are very well done and probably better done than other games that I've seen ever. The campaign is beautiful. The cutscenes are amazing. And while you're playing through the campaign, you will have a lot of fun. The first 50 hours of this game are very much worth it and very much, It'll give you that sense of gratification that you actually did something. But once you get to about World Tier 3, World Tier 4, where you're actually trying to progress through the end game, that will be gone. That will leave very quickly. There's not a lot of things in this game to what's the word? It won't base. There's not a lot of depth to it. A lot of areas of this game are very shallow, and they need to be fleshed out a bit before I can really say this game is good. I would say that if I spent like $30 to $40 on this game, I would still be like kind of disappointed, but it would make a lot more sense. Pretty much everyone who's played this game to the end game knows that it was released in an unfinished state, and that they very much should have just worked on it for another year before releasing it. I will say this, getting this game after they worked on it for 8 years makes me kind of sad. I really am wondering where all that time and money went, if this is what we get after 8 years, and if this is this, like, you know, the sequel, or the, I guess not the sequel, but like, the latest edition in a long line of a great game series. I will say this, in about a year to a year and a half, maybe even 2 years from now, I think this game will be amazing. I really do. I think that the foundation that they have here is something that is very well made, but it's like they only poured, like they did a wonderful job pouring the concrete and laying the foundation and making like the rafting of the house like just the bare bones, like the load bearing stud beams and like the cross sections and all that, and then they even started getting some of the plywood for the walls going. But there's no siding, there's no plumbing, there's no electricity. There might be like maybe some drywall here and there, and hell, maybe even some of a roof. But if this game were a house, it would be a fucking nightmare to live in. So I think in about a year to 2 years, we will have all of that. We will have a lot of stuff to do in the game. It'll be really fun, and there will be even more ways to build a character. There will actually be good quality of life features, which is kind of where this game falls completely flat. There are next to no social features in this game. There's no friend finding, there's no game finding, there's no real clan wars or like raids or anything. There's no global chat. Like if I go to chat, there's just local and trade, and no one uses either. So there's almost no reason to have those even, because no one ever uses them. There needs to be better social features. There needs to be better quality of life, and for God's sake, oh my God, give us 4 more stash tabs, please. Or just make the consumables tab unlimited. Put a little scroll bar here. Have us put all of our stuff in here and have it just be completely unlimited. It's not that hard. Maybe it is. I'm not a coder. But overall, I give this game a solid 5 out of 10. It's right in the middle of the road. It's good enough to play, and it's good enough to waste a hell of a lot of time on, but it's not good enough for me to waste my life on, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I mean, I have had some fun making the different classes and fooling around with a lot of the different skills on the different classes. I think you guys might be able to get some good enjoyment out of that, just exploring what you like to play. But once you get to a certain level threshold, or I guess a certain gear threshold, where it's almost impossible for you to find upgrades to your gear, like the entire point of the game has just, at that point, exploded. or imploded upon itself, because there's no real reason to progress your character if you can't progress your gear, get better gear to get better loot down the road from killing more monsters because you have better gear. It really just kind of puts a hole in the whole ARPG framework. So anyways, this has been my video. I don't really know what the point of it was, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. And yeah, probably put out some like another rogue video here, just showcasing my rogue and kind of what we did there. And then after that, we'll probably do some PoE videos. We might even do some Vampire Survivors or maybe a Brotato video. One of the two. We'll see what we end up doing. But yeah, alright. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.